Hello. So today we're going to talk about transitions, and nice basic ones without going into thousands of nodes and creating something unmanageable and just too complex. So just as an aside, if you Google films, modern films, and what transitions they use, you'll find there's only 4 or 5. It's a very small amount that generally films just use. Things like a bit of dissolving here and there, fading to black, or something like Bruce Almighty, fading to white, cut a straight cut. So a transition is anything that goes from one thing to another and how you get there. So it may be fade to black, you're transitioning from one thing to another. So that's all they are, straightforward. So let's keep it nice and simple, and we'll get into this straight away. So what we've got here is a few clips put together with a few transitions on them. Okay, so the first clip here is black and white, and what I want to do is, as we get to the end, I want it to start going into colour actually, and this goes from right to left, and it's like a swipe or a wipe. Okay, across one to the other. The second transition, which is video 4 to video 3, is a straight cut. Nothing glamorous, just a straight cut. The next transition is like an iris, like an eyeball going down to a dot and disappearing. So there's a circle, shape of the pan, and then the final transition on these top 4 rows is a rectangle, and lady sitting in the grass cooking. Okay, if we go down to the bottom, we've got a transition here between the cooking pot and the beach, which looks like this. Dreamy beach. And then right at the very end of the last clip, it's just a fade to black. Okay. So we'll start from the easiest to the most not easiest. They're all easy actually. But, so this is the very, very last one on this clip here. When you select a clip, each one's got 2 handles on the top left and top right. Okay, all right. So if I drag this, you can see like a dark arrow, a dark triangle up here. As the timeline goes through this, you can see the clip gets darker and darker. So that's actually just a real basic transition, just a fade to black. Okay, rather than just end. Now the next 2 here, if we look at these 2 white squares, this is actually an inbuilt effect which we're going to use. Okay, so if I open effects, we've got a thing called blur dissolve. So if I remove these 2, okay, I'll just space this out because I haven't read it. Now I want to put a blur dissolve on this clip here, the left one, and a blur dissolve on the beach. I'll just drag the drip onto this one here, position it until the little white box appears, let go. Do the same again for the right hand clip. Okay. Now if I just zoom into this point here, I'll just show you something really. Now at the moment there's a gap between 2, so I'll just drag the clips together. Okay, put the leg back on, clip back on, that's it off again. So if I just run this through, fade and back in. You notice that the second one's a bit shorter, we want it a bit longer. So I can select it. Once I've selected one of these, I can hover the mouse over. Okay. And I can drag the right hand side and make the dissolve, make the blur longer and longer. So as it goes through, it's not so abrupt, it's very gentle. But I think the sea looks really nice like this actually. So those are the easy ones. So if we go back to the top one here, okay, for a quick discussion about this clip. This clip is a desaturated version of the clip right underneath it. So if I turn number 5 off, okay, you can just see, actually there's a mask on this. This clip underneath it here, okay, this is a colour clip. The one on the top is a black and white clip. So what I want to do is I want to make the top clip dissolve so it exposes the bottom clip. And how we do this. If I click on the top clip and go into Fusion at the bottom here, all I've done is added a polygon. Okay, I'm going to hold Command down, use the mouse wheel, and zoom out. Now, if I grab the little timeline here, okay, you can see the green thing move. Okay. So how do we create that in the first place? So if we delete that polygon, we'll go back to the editor, and if I now go across this is a delete the polygon. Go back to here. It's just a straight black and white to colour, but we want it a bit more creative. Okay, so I'll position the marker where I want it roughly. Go back to Fusion, and so what we've got here is that colour frame where we're at the moment. Okay, and I'll go back to here again. I want video 5 selected, the black and white one, because that's the one I want to cut through. All right, it's still not black and white. So let's pull this back here. Okay, right, so that's the whole line here. I'm going to go back to the edit page. Position is where I want it. Okay. Go back to Fusion. Now I'm going to click the polygon, this weird shape here. Okay. And then with the mouse will change to a crosshair. So I'm just going to draw a rectangle and then click on the beginning with the end. Okay. Now if I look at the timeline, here around about 3:15, there's a little white line here that's created a keyframe. It's locked a point in time within the clip that this shape exists. Okay. Now if I move forward 10 frames and then drag this point by point, okay, if I drag it back in, and notice how it changes. Okay, and it's filled in all the gaps. There's two little white lines, that's what's all happened to him. Now if I go back to the editor, okay, let's get across. Okay, so now that rectangle is doing its stuff. But that line going down the frame there looks like a razor cut. So what we can do, click on the polygon again. All right, I've got a soft edge here, so I'll bring up that soft edge a bit. Okay, back to the editor. So that's not so sharp. Okay. Now that principle applies to doing the next one. The straight cut is just literally just from the end of one clip to the next. It doesn't even need to be on the next line. It could be on, they're both on the same line, just one straight to the other. Okay. Now the next one, this one here, the iris looking one here. All right. If we click on this clip here, go to Fusion. For this one, it says ellipse. Okay. So I'll hold down Command and use the mouse wheel and scroll out again. Zoom out again. Now this one is a little bit different. So I'm going to delete ellipse. Okay. I'm going to go back to the editor so you can see what what's actually happened. So it's this one here. There. So it's from the cooker to looking down on the pan cooking the noodles. Alright, so I want it to go about here-ish, maybe. Alright, so back in Fusion. Now, I am going to click ellipse, and I'll dump an ellipse smack in the middle. The problem is, it's not going to be keyframing yet. It's not going to fix that point in time. It doesn't matter where that line is, it's just going to stay exactly the same. And by changing it, we have to tell it we've made a change. So what I'm going to do right now is increase the width to greater than the frame, and the height greater than the frame. Okay. Then I'm going to click these two diamonds at the end here of width and height. Then I'm going to move the time forward about 10 frames. Notice the little white things appeared now. Alright. And then I'm going to reduce it down to 0. If I go back again, so now I've got 2 keyframes, 2 markers here. Okay, so if I go forward, you see it changing. Okay. I don't have to re-click these 2 red diamonds here. If I go back to the timeline or the editor, so now what I'll do is I'll just go across here and we'll just do this frame by frame so you can see this. Okay. Now the same one applies to this one here. Okay, now this is just going to use a square, so if I just go in a couple of frames at a time. Okay, so again, this is down to, you can see the shape here is a rectangle. So if I go across to the Fusion, you can see I've now used a rectangle and we've got a bit of soft edge on it. Okay, so if I go to the actual beginning of the clip completely, right, the very first clip, one thing to actually mention. Okay, I'm cutting through that first clip. I'm using a polygon. This needs to be inverted. Just click invert, see what happens. Okay, because I want to cut through to the color. Okay, so I go back to the editor. Let's press play or spacebar. Okay, that circle's got a really sharp edge on the end of it. So I go back to the Fusion, click on the ellipse, add some soft edge to it. Go back to the editor. Notice above the clips here we've got red and blue. So what I've done on playback is I've put it onto Smart on the render cache. So it takes a few seconds to catch up, but once it's rendered everything in the background, it's actually a lot faster to work with. Just sometimes takes a few seconds for it to catch up. So now if we go through here, you can see the soft edge around the circle here. It's a lot less brutal, and fading to black at the end. Right, so it's without going into the effects and using all the different transitions here, you can create your own, which is just as quick. In fact, you saw how quick it was to do this one here, the wipe, but you've got more control. If you do it yourself, you've got more control. You can set how long you want it to be and what you want, exactly what you want to do. Just out of interest, so this clip that's in the front here, we've got a desaturated one and a saturated one. So we've got one that's no colour and one that is colour. So if I go into the colour panel, okay, I'll just move this away from there. Okay, let's turn on. Right. So there's my media here. All right, so let's go down to the colour panel. Right. So if I do this, I bring the colour back. If I do this, all the colour's gone. So if I up the contrast massively, that's just like a silhouette. Go back to the timeline. Makes it a bit more dramatic of the change. That's a straight cut. This is the ellipse coming up. This is the rectangle. This is the blur. And then it fades out to black. There's a million ways to improve it, but I definitely believe keep it simple. I've seen some Fusion workflows that are along the lines of Adobe After Effects gone crazy. So, and the more nodes you have in your Fusion, the slower it gets. The more effects you have, the slower it gets. If you're working on 30-minute footage, you're going to need quite a lot of memory. So I hope this has been helpful, and thank you very much.